An emotional day of commemoration is underway in Israel as the Jews mark the first anniversary of the October 7 Hamas attacks. Israeli ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman, was on our early flight program this morning, and here's what he had to say in the interview.
The root of this problem is Iran, that has declared its nation to destroy Israel. Even this morning, the leader of Iran was tweeting and sending out message saying he wants to destroy the state of Israel, that that's his aim, that that's his hope, that's what he wants to do. Iran are the ones funding Hezbollah, they are funding and supporting Hamas, they are funding and supporting the Houthis, they are funding and supporting destabilization in Syria, in Iraq. They are funding and destabilization across the world, including, by the way, in Western Africa. They are also involved in West Africa and destabilizing this region. They are providing money to the various different insurgency groups in this area. So Iran is the problem. Iran is the fundamental problem and the fundamental challenge here. And it's what we need to make sure that the world understands that. And the world acts against Iran, and the world acts by putting crushing sanctions on them to stop them and to change their activities, because they're ultimately aiming to destabilize only Israel, not only the Middle East, but Africa, the rest of the world as well. And, when a country like Iran fires nearly 200 ballistic missiles at you, then any country in the world would respond. And Israel will respond. We will respond in consultation with our allies, in consultation with America, in consultation with other friends and other allies. And we will respond in an appropriate and a proportional way to the attack that was carried out by Iran.
Ambassador Freeman, before we let you go, on the anniversary of October 7, 2023, when Hamas attacked Israel, murdered, maimed, kidnapped, sexually abused Israelis, what are your words for the Israeli people that have suffered in this conflict?
It's very difficult for me to give words to those people. Often I am the one who looks to those who have suffered and been and survived these terrible massacres and look for their words of strength. For all Israelis, today is a very, very difficult day. My father-in-law, my wife's father, lives in the south of Israel. He's an 87-year-old man, and he spent October 7th and the days afterwards in his special bomb-proof sealed room as the rockets were falling and the terrorists were in the area. Fortunately, he survived. And, he said to us, and he said to me, he said, look, we've been through terrible things. The Jewish people have been through terrible things. Israel have been through terrible things. But together, we will survive. Together, we will get through this. And together, we will provide better days. And I hope that we will have better days for us and for our neighbors and for the whole region. And, as one of the survivors said, and all the survivors said after the Nova festival, the Nova party, that ultimately we will dance again.
Right. Many have gathered across. All right. I think we'll leave it there. That seems to be the much time. Oh, all right. My producer said I should go ahead. Many have gathered across the nations commemorating this day all over the world. In Indonesia, for example, 1,000 pro-Palestinian protesters outside the U.S. Embassy are demanding that America stop sending weapons to Israel. What's your sense, Michael?
Okay, it's amazing that today people would be demonstrating against Israel. I remind everybody that on October the 7th, the only thing that happened on October the 7th was Hamas massacred Jews. Hamas massacred Israelis. Hamas massacred anybody who was living. And I would remind that they massacred Africans who were in Israel on that day. They massacred Asians. They massacred Jews. They massacred Muslims. They massacred Christians. They didn't care who they were. They just needed to be inside Israel. And these people massacred on the 7th of October. All Israel was doing was defending itself that day. We certainly hadn't responded to Hamas. So anybody who's demonstrating today, in my mind, is demonstrating in favor of what happened on October the 7th. And that's just outrageous. As for those people calling for sanctions or arms embargo, it's amazing. For a year and for many years, none of these people called on Hezbollah to stop firing rockets. Nobody called on Hamas to stop attacking Israel. Nobody called on Hamas not to rape women. They didn't call on them to stop murdering babies. They didn't call on them to not burn people alive or to torture people. But as soon as Israel fights back, like any country in the world was, they say that Israel needs to stop and we need to stop Israel defending. Well, Israel won't stop defending ourselves. We won't stop reacting to this massacre and to these people who want to kill us. We will continue until our enemies are willing to surrender and our enemies are, and Hamas returns the hostages, and that we can have peace on our borders, because that's ultimately what we want. And I would remind everybody once more, on the 6th of October, there was a ceasefire. On the 6th of October, Israel was inside Israel. The Palestinians were and Hamas were inside Gaza, and Hezbollah was inside Lebanon, and nobody was coming across the border. It was Hamas that changed this on October the 7th, and Hezbollah that changed this on October the 8th.
All right. Earlier on on the show, we had the ambassador of Israel to Nigeria, Ambassador Michael Freeman, and there you heard him speak about just what the impact of that 7th of October 2023 invasion by Hamas has been on the Israeli people, and also speaking on Israel's rights to defend itself, and just talking about the fact that it's been the number of lives that have been lost, 1,200 people in one day, number of people who've been taken in hostage. But it would be great to have that balance, and that's why we're going to be speaking to the Palestinian ambassador very shortly, as we also speak about the impact, not just, earlier on I'd said, Dr. Bati, that 1,200 people in one day at the time, or over that for Israel, but on the Palestinian end, over 40,000 people, including a huge number of them being civilians, being killed in terms of retaliation attack from Israel against Hamas.
Well, the Hamas attack on Israel was probably one of the most devastating attacks that Israel had experienced in the context of the Middle East conflict. And in fact, the more devastating attack on October 7 last year was the attack on the Supernova Festival, which was, the place where people had gathered, for music, for entertainment, and all of that. And now, since yesterday, there have been reactions across the Middle East on the Palestinian side, and even away from Gaza, pro-Palestinian groups have been protesting, mourning the people who died. Over 42,000 persons, dead. Many more displaced. Many others have been victims, including persons providing international humanitarian assistance. On the other hand, yesterday at the Hyde Park in London, 2,000 persons gathered to remember the people who died and the families of the Israelis that were taken hostages, by the Palestinian troops, the Hamas, also gathered to remember. So today is like a crossroads point, in the Middle East, with a conflict now in different theaters. You have the Gaza front, you have the Hezbollah front, you have the Houthi rebels front, with Iran also in the background. The fear of the world is that, look, the world in that axis, Middle East, has been through hell. The future should be one of peace.
All right.
That should be the concern today.
All right. Well, we'll be speaking now to the Palestinian ambassador. He'll be joining us for his view concerning the October 7 attack and what must be done to achieve a ceasefire and lasting peace in the Middle East. He is Abdullah Abu Shawesh, the Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the morning show.
Thank you so much, and very good morning, Africa. Very good morning, Nigeria.
Well, Ambassador Shawesh, how do you feel 1 year after, exactly, when hellfire broke out in the Middle East? And do you think that there's any prospect for a ceasefire in this war?
Thank you so much indeed. I did not listen to the introduction, but it seems that part of the introduction is talking about the conflict, Hezbollah, Gaza, Houthi, Iran, which is again This is the exact, unfortunately, narrative of the Israeli, or the exact Israeli narrative. This is not conflict. This is a war launched against the Palestinian people a long time ago. This war was started November 2nd, 1917, when the United Kingdom issued the notorious despicable Balfour Declaration. In this declaration, the United Kingdom, who have nothing, no right over the Palestinian land, promised the Khazarian Jew, the European Jew, of giving or gifting the Khazarian Jew our historical land of Palestine. This war was launched again long time ago when the Israeli gangs, the Jewish gangs in 1948 expelled the Palestinian people and turning them to become a refugee. This war continued and of course built Israel on 78% of the historical land of Palestine. Again, this war continued when Israel was succeeded to occupy the remaining part, 22% of the historical land of Palestine. I mean, West Bank, including East Jerusalem, of course, and Gaza, beside, of course, the Golan Heights. So when it came to the, because wording have a meaning, this is not a crisis, this is a war against the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, you use, or many used to talk about Gaza, Houthi, and Iran, but no one tackle or no one dare to tackle that this is a United States of America who's fully backed Israel in this war. He's fully militarized Israel, fully supply Israel with a lot of, with every different type of weapons to kill the Palestinian people, and of course Lebanese and others. No one will going to tackle the rule of some other Western country in this particular role. When it came again to the ceasefire, and again because wording have a meaning, we should not call for a ceasefire, because ceasefire means that there is two armies fighting against each other. This is a war launched by a brutal military occupation, Israeli occupation, against innocent Palestinian people, according to the international reports. So that we should call for an ending of the Israeli war, not a ceasefire. We cannot talk about equivalent two armies to call for a ceasefire. Again, back to the 366 days ago, and you asked me about what my feeling or my thought about this. We have two schools of thought when it came to the October 7th, 2023. The rational one and the Israeli Western one. The rational one, or the Israeli again. The Israel and United States of America, of course, supported by the United States of America and many other at that time Western countries, would like us all to believe that the galaxy itself was created, was invented, was started only in October 7th. October 6th, for example, 2023, no one wants to shed light on what happened in October 6th. And Israel and the American, of course, want us to believe that we want last Friday, October 7th, October 6th, 2023, we want to bid and everything was okay. Then we woke up on the Palestinian attack on Israel. This is not true. There is an incubation. There is a brutal incubation conducted in a daily basis, killing the Palestinian people. There is a vicious settler, Israeli settlers, patrolling our streets, patrolling our villages in West Bank and killing the Palestinians with full immunity and full support of the Israeli occupation. The other school of thought, which is tackling, can we use it to tackle what happened in October 7th? And this school of thought will lead us for sure to prevent another October 7th and to prevent and to pave the way for the peace process itself, which is the rational school of thought that is talking about you should back to the root of why October 7th happened, which is the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, in his speech before the Security Council in October 26, 2023, when he mentioned, and I'm going to say that when he mentioned that October 7th did not happen from the vacuum, and he referred the cause for the Israeli occupation. This is very important to think of. All
right. Thank you, Ambassador.
Did you hear me?
Yes, we heard you. We heard you very clearly.
Just if you allow me, Yes, because just to say that, yes, October 7th is a fact, but what happened in October 7th, we should all call together for an inquiry, international inquiry investigation commission to come to investigate because what happened in October 7th and after October 7th, for sure. Because October 7th is a fact, we cannot and we will not deny what happened in October 7th, but there is a lot of false Israeli accusation spread in the media that paved the way or legitimized the current and the ongoing massacres against the Palestinians. We all should call together for an inquiry investigation commission to be established by the Human Rights Council to come and to investigate what happened in October 7th, before October 7th, and after October 7th. And anyone conducted a war crimes against any single civilians, he should be held accountable.
All right.
Back to you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, let me ask, with what happened or with what's happened post-October 7, would you say that Hamas, Palestinians were ready for Israel's retaliation following that attack on Israel on the 7th of October? Did you expect this scale?
Come again, because...
Okay, so did you expect or were you ready for this scale of response from Israel?
No, ready or expect, there is a two different issue. Expect, we already used to have this type of brutal massacres against the Palestinian people, and this is something happened to the Palestinian long time ago. For example, April 9, 1948, they conducted, or the Jewish gangs conducted Deir Yassin massacres when they brutally, viciously killed approximately 300 plus, slaughtering them in Deir Yassin. October 29, for example, 1956, they conducted another massacres against the Palestinian Kufr Qasim massacres. May 23, 48, at Tantura massacres. So I can list it to you tens of massacres that the Israeli conducted it against the Palestinian people. Only in October 17 last year, they conducted the massacres on the Baptist hospital when the Israeli themselves killed more than 500 Palestinians in one shot. So that when you say that, did you expect it? We already faced these massacres and these killings. Yes, not in this brutal scales, but by the end of the day, we used to be killed on the hands of the Israelis, whether it is tens or 20 or 30. Today, unfortunately, 1 year since during the last year, they used to kill the Palestinian in dozen. Today, we are talking about 42,000 Palestinian was slaughtered, killed on the hands of the Israeli, of course, backed by the American.
Okay. Real quickly.
Americans, of course.
Ambassador, can you hear me? We've talked about the family. We can go historically.
Yes, go ahead,
even
please.
go back to the days of Balfour Declaration, and we can even go, to the antecedent problem of the Middle East. But the most important thing is, it's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's about the humanitarian crisis happening, the people that are dying, the children that will never see their parents again. And that's why we're asking, what's the way out? President Biden is putting forward a ceasefire deal. Some parts of this fight are still hard-headed about the ceasefire deal. What is your take about the ceasefire deal? What would be a deal breaker for the Palestinians as regards to the ceasefire deal? And how can we move off all of this? Because we have billions of dollars spent on bombs and rockets and ammunition when we should be using that money to provide schools for children in Gaza and in Israel and giving them a better future rather than killing each other.
Indeed, you mentioned very important issue, more than one very important issue. And I thank you that you talk about the history and then who's right or wrong, but the history is very important. Without studying, without knowing the history, and I'm pretty sure only since the last year that we succeeded together, me and the media here in Nigeria and Africa succeeded together to shed light about on the roots of the problem. History is very important. Without studying the history, without knowing the incubator, what happened, we will not know how the way out forward. When you talk about billions of dollars spent, yes, it's tens of billions of dollars that the Americans spent it to kill the Palestinian people. Just 10 days ago, Israel declared that they succeeded to have $8.7 billion from the American. Of course, this is not a charity for sure, and this is not a messianic mission. This is for 8.7 million to kill the Palestinian people. Again, ceasefire or end the war, because ceasefire means that two armies fighting against other. We call for ending the American-backed Israeli war, not more than that. The way forward, which is very important question and very simple. The answer is very simple. The way forward to make sure the humanitarian.
All right, just to conclude your point, Ambassador. Thank you.
Make sure. Yes, I want to come to the very last issue. The way out to secure a humanitarian situation or a humanitarian aids, or to make sure that no more children, Israelis or Palestinian, will be killed. No more other innocent civilian will be killed in both sides, is the peace process itself. When it came to the peace process, the way out is very simple. Could you allow me just to say the way out? The way out is the international law. Is it fair to put the international law, the adopted UN resolution, the adopted Security Council
Ambassador,
resolution?
I'm so sorry. We have to wrap up this conversation.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Abdullah Mohammed Shawesh, a Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria. Unfortunately, we have very limited time with you.